Hey guys, we will now be reporting the Unit 111, Managing the Self. The objective of this topic is first, understanding the theoretical underpinnings for how to manage and care for different aspects of the self. Number two, acquire and hold new skills and learnings for better managing of oneself and behaviors. And number three, apply this new skill to oneself and functioning a better quality of life. Learning to be a better student. There are study techniques. Many students are being left behind by an educational system that some people believe is in crisis. Improving educational outcomes will require efforts on many fronts, but there are solutions involved in helping students to better regulate their learning through the use of effective learning techniques. Fortunately, cognitive and educational psychologists have been developing and evaluating easy to use learning techniques that could students achieve for learning goals. So here are the 10 study techniques that students can use. First is the elaborative interrogation. Is a specific method of elaboration. The keyword interrogation means to question. So when you use elaborative interrogation, you ask yourself questions each about how and why things work, and then produce the answer to this question. Number two, the self-explanation. Explaining how new information is related to known information or explaining steps taken during problem solving. Number three, summarization. Writing summaries of to be learned text, students often have to learn large amount of information, which requires them to identify what is important and how different ideas connect to another. One popular technique for accomplish this goals involves having students write summaries to be learned text. Number four, the highlighting or underline, marking potentially important portion of to-learn materials while reading. More systematic evaluation of actual textbook and other student materials have supported the claim that highlighting and underlining are common values. Number five, keyword mnemonic. Using keywords and mental imagery of text materials while reading or listening develop a mental image of students. 100 over textbook. Struggling with the science unit on the solar system, trying to learn the planets' names and their order is in the distance from them, sun. Mnemonic are strategies and techniques that an add in a memory. Number six, imagery of text. Attempting to form mental image of text materials while reading or listening investigation of imagery is used for learning. Text materials have focused on a single sentence and longer text materials. Imagery is literally device used in poetry, novels, and other writing that use vivid description that appeals to the reader's senses to create an image or idea in their head. Number seven, the rereading. Restudying text materials again after an initial reading. Rereading is the one of the techniques that students most frequently report using during self-regulated study. Number 8. Practice teaching. Testing or taking practice test over to be learned material practice testing are used as a to distinguish testing that is completed as low stakes or no stakes practice or learning activity outside of class from summative assessment that are administered by the instructor in class. And B, to be encompass any form of practice that students will be able to engage on their own. For example, practicing testing could involve practicing recall of target information via the use of actual or virtual flashcard. Completing practice problems or questioning include at the end of the textbook, chapter, or Number 9. Distributed practice, implementing a schedule of practice that spread out study activities over time. To be learned material is often encountered on one more than one occasion, such as when the students review their note and then later use flashcard to restudy the materials, or when a topic is covered in the class and then later studied in a textbook. The last one is the interleaved practice, implementing a schedule of practice that mixes different kind of problems, or a schedule of study that mixes different kinds of materials within a single study session. In virtually every kind of class at every grade level, students are expected to learn content from many different subtopics or problems of many different kinds. For example, student in a neuroanatomy course would learn about several different divisions of the nervous system, and student in a geometry course would learn various formulas for computing properties of objects such as surface area and volume.
Goal setting and happiness. What is goal setting and how can we attain happiness from it? One reason that goal setting increases happiness is that goals make you feel more optimistic about the future. When you are goal oriented, you become more optimistic in life. You are happier, healthier, and can cope up better in challenging times. Many people pursue goals that they expect will make them happy, but happiness isn't always the end result. There are people who will put everything they have into one aspect of their life, such as their careers, at the expense of their personal lives, only to wonder years later why they are successful and still unhappy. Here are Locke and Latham's 5 goal-setting principles. Dr. Edwin Locke and Dr. Gary Latham spent many years researching the theory of goal setting, during which time they identified 5 elements that need to be in place for us to achieve our goals. In the late 1960s, Locke's pioneering research into goal setting and motivation gave us our modern understanding of what is goal setting. Locke's research showed that the more difficult and specific a goal is, the harder people tend to work harder to achieve it. And now, we should talk about the 5 goal-setting principles that can improve our chances of success. 5 goal-setting principles. Number 1. Clarity. A clear goal can be measured, no room for misunderstandings. When you have an accurate clarification on what you want to achieve, you are more likely to be hardworking. 2. Challenge setting. Challenging goals demands an accurate balance to guarantee the right level of challenge. When you are challenged, hardly you are more likely to think positively and measure on what capacities can you take and techniques to make for you to be able to surpass it effectively. Number 3. Effort. Fully understanding and coordinating the set goals. This means that you must be able to set your goals clear. Example, you wanted to be a dean's lister, so you set your goals accordingly. You study harder than you do for you to achieve it. Number 4, feedback. Listening to feedback to check where you're headed in the right direction. Sometimes, listening to other people's comment is a good thing because in this you will know if the path you are taking is still in the right place or it is going in a wrong direction. But always keep in mind that it doesn't really necessarily have to come from other people because feedback always comes from within us when we are deciding on the things that we want to achieve. Number 5. Task complexity. Takes into account the complexity of the goals, given the fact that complexity can influence morale, productivity, and motivation. In this, you will learn that the complexity of the goals would become a hindrance for you to achieve what you wanted. But that doesn't really matter for us. As long as you strive harder, you will also get the reward that you wanted to attain. So then, how is one to know which goals will provide personal happiness and which ones will not? Happiness. It is something that you feel or acquire when you achieve something and feel contentment on it. Happiness is the presence of the positive emotions and the absence of negative emotions. Goal setting. It encompasses a major component of personal development and is viewed as an effective tool for making progress toward goals by ensuring that a person has a clear awareness of what they must do to achieve their objective. Think back of the time that you achieved something in your life. The first time you see the result in your USMC and got the opportunity to be admitted on your dream school. At that point, you feel more ecstatic and become motivated in life. At very point in your life when you feel contented and much happier, you can feel that you are actually making a progress toward a certain goal or have attained what you want to become. Now, think back to where last unhappy. The time that you lose a loved one or failed in a subject that you expect to excel. In that, you feel unmotivated. Your progress pace slowly and become unwilling on proceeding to what you wanted to achieve. In acquiring goal setting, here are the goal guidelines. Goal guidelines. Goals should be challenging but realistic and attainable. If you set goals that are too easy, you will reach them without much difficulty, which will not provide you with a real sense of accomplishment. It is best to set goals that can be realistically reached, but only with a sufficient amount of time and effort put in. For example, dreaming to study fashion in New York. Studying fashion costs a lot of money and effort. Avoid focusing on goal attainment. It is not possible to judge whether every goal made will ultimately be attainable. It is more than likely that you will not reach every goal that you set for yourself. Therefore, it is more advisable to focus on the journey you have taken, degree attainment rather than whether or not fully reach your goal, absolute attainment. Continuous goal setting. Goal setting is a process that never ends. Once goal is achieved, another goal with a different direction should be created to take its place. For example, you've succeeded in taking your licensure examination for teachers, and now your next goal is to have a PhD in your name. Feedback. You should get regular feedback on how you are doing and pursuing your goals from those around you. Have a consistent feedback contributes to the effectiveness of goal setting. The darker side of goal setting: temporary happiness. Instant gratification predominates in today's society. Situations arise where specific goals may lead to temporary happiness. Often this brief happiness is associated with the lesser good, which promises immediate pleasure and is more tempting in comparison to the greater good, which may require more sacrifice and effort. For example, it will be more enjoyable chatting, scrolling on Facebook, or watching TikTok videos, but you know it very well that studying or doing your activities is much better than procrastinating. Thus, the more time you spend on irrelevant things, the more your mind is clouded with negative mind that will lead you to a depression. The use of drugs has become a relatively common method to gain the goal of temporary happiness. There are some who use drugs as a method to escape from their troubles. For a small price, a person can immediately take their mind off any issues and experience euphoria by taking a pill. This short-term pleasure can ultimately lead to a long-term pain. The effects of the drug wear off and you feel miserable again and therefore feel the need to take the drug again, which leads to a spiral of need and relief. In that way, you lose track of your life. You tend to forget that there is still a real world out there waiting for you, because you become dependent on that temporary happiness that you attain while doing unnecessary things. It is, however, difficult to achieve true happiness through goal setting, simply by enjoying the pleasures of the moment. What is self-compassion? Self-compassion is simply the process of turning compassion inward. We are kind and understanding rather than harshly critical when we fail, make mistakes, or feel inadequate. We give ourselves support and encouragement rather than being cold and judgmental when challenges and difficulty arise in our lives. An example of self-compassion is you motivate yourself on how to become better than it is. Here are ways on how to show compassion to yourself. Comfort your body. Eat something healthy. Lie down and rest. Massage your own neck, feet, or hands. Take a walk. Anything you can do to improve how you feel physically gives you a dose of self-compassion. Write a letter to yourself. Think of a situation that caused you to feel pain. Example, a breakup with your lover or losing your loved ones. Write a letter to yourself describing the situation, but without blaming anyone, including yourself. Use this exercise to nurture your feelings. Give yourself encouragement. Think of what you would say to a good friend if she was facing difficult or stressful situation. Then, when you find yourself in this kind of situation, direct this compassionate response toward yourself. According to various Buddhist teachers, self-compassion can be defined as being composed of three main components: self-kindness, a sense of common humanity, and mindfulness. Kindness. Self-compassion entails being warm and understanding toward ourselves when we fail, suffer, or feel inadequate, rather than flagellating ourselves with self-criticism. Common humanity. One of the biggest problems with harsh self-judgments is that it tends to make us feel isolated. Mindfulness is a non-judgmental receptive mindset in which thoughts and feelings are observed as they are, without suppressing or denying them.
Managing stress. Not all stress is bad, but long-term stress can lead to health problems. Before we start, let us first define what is stress. So stress can be defined as any type of change that causes physical, emotional, or psychological strain. Stress is your body's response to anything that requires attention or action. What are the benefits of managing stress? Over time, long stress can lead to health problems. Managing stress can help you sleep better, then control your weight, have less muscle tension, be in better mood, and you will get along better with family and friends. Preventing and managing long-term stress can lower your risk from other conditions, like for example, heart disease, obesity, high blood pressure, and depression. So, you can prevent or reduce stress by planning ahead, deciding what tasks to do first, and preparing for stressful events. Some stress is hard to avoid, but you can find ways to manage stress by noticing when you feel stressed, taking time to relax, getting active, and eating healthy foods, finding solutions to problems you're having, and talking to family and friends. Signs and health effects. So we have here the signs of stress. First, when you're under stress, you may feel worried, angry, irritable, and depressed, unable to focus, and stress also affects your body. Physical signs of stress include headaches, trouble sleeping or sleeping too much, upset stomach, weight gain or loss, and tense muscles. Stress can also lead to a weakened immune system, which is the system in the body that fights infections, which could make you more likely to get sick. What are the causes of stress? So stress is how the body reacts to a challenge or demand. Change is often cause of stress. Even positive changes like having a baby or getting a job promotion can also be considered as stressful. So stress can be a short term or long term. Next, we have the stress response. The stress response or fight or flight response is the emergency reaction system of the body. It is there to keep you safe in emergencies. The stress response includes physical and thought responses to your perception of various situations. So we have here the three stress responses. First, we have the General Adaptation Syndrome or GAS. So, General Adaptation Syndrome or GAS describes the process of your body goes through when you're exposed to any kinds of stress, maybe positive or negative. GAS has three stages. First, the alarm, resistance, and then the exhaustion. So, if you do not resolve the stress that has triggered GAS, it can lead to physical and mental problems. Next, we have the fight or flight, tend and befriend. The tend and befriend theory says that humans may seek social support and connection when facing a threat. This stress response is an alternative to the fight or flight reaction. Then last, we have the cognitive appraisal. So cognitive appraisal is the subjective interpretation made by an individual to stimuli in the environment. It is a component in a variety of theories relating to stress, mental health, coping, and emotion. Next, stress, disease, and health. So, the stress can affect the immune system, which serves to defend the body against infection. B cells, which mature in the bone marrow, and the T cells, which mature in the thymus, an organ located in the chest. So, one type of T cell is the natural killer cell, which detects and destroys damaged or altered cells before they become tumors. So, what are the diseases caused by stress? First, we have the cancer. So, cancer is also caused by stress. Stress can speed up the spread of cancer throughout the body, especially in ovarian, breast, and colorectal cancer. When the body becomes stressed, neurotransmitters like norepinephrine are released, which stimulate cancer cells. So next, we have the heart disease. Stress may lead to high blood pressure, which can pose a risk for heart attack and stroke. Stress also may contribute to such cardiovascular disease risks such as smoking, overeating, and lack of physical activity. Chronic stress have been shown to be associated with increased cardiovascular events. The increased blood pressure created by stress of these arteries promotes plaque buildup or arteriosclerosis. The next, we have the depression. So depression is the effect of chronic or long-term stress. It is harmful and narrow, but they also can contribute to depression, a mood disorder that makes you feel sad and disinterested in things you usually enjoy. So depression can affect your appetite, your sleep habits, and your ability to concentrate. The next, we have the anxiety. So anxiety is a feeling of fear, worry, or unease. While it can occur as a reaction to stress, it can also happen without any obvious trigger. Both stress and anxiety involve mostly identical symptoms, including trouble sleeping, digestive issues, difficulty concentrating, muscle tension, irritability, or anger. Most people experience some feelings of stress and anxiety at some point, and that isn't necessarily a bad thing after all. Stress and anxiety can sometimes be a helpful motivator to accomplish daunting tasks or to do things you'd rather not, but really should. Then, what are your coping strategies in stress? So, coping mechanisms are the strategies people often use in the face of stress and or trauma to help manage painful or difficult emotions. Coping mechanisms can help people adjust to stressful events while helping them maintain their emotional well-being. Then, what are the coping strategies for stress? First, we have the problem-focused and emotional-focused coping. It involves handling stress by facing it head-on and taking action to resolve the underlying cause. Emotion-focused coping involves regulating your feelings and emotional response to the problem instead of addressing the problem. The next, we have the optimism and positive thinking. Hopefulness and confidence about the future or the success of something, while positivity is the practice of being or tendency to be positive or optimistic in attitude. Although adopting a positive mindset can help us get through difficult times or situations, it can also tend to focus really on our mind over matter, thinking positive thoughts and banishing all negative ones. Then next, we have the cognitive restructuring and positive self-talk. So cognitive restructuring is a technique that has been successfully used to help people change the way they think. When used for stress management, the goal is to replace stress-reducing thoughts, maybe cognitive distortions, with more balanced thoughts that not produce stress. And then we have the self-efficacy, which increases one's sense of being in control of a situation. One may be encountered and can thus be as a stress coping strategy. Social support has been widely studied as a factor that minimizes the effects of stress, and the results are somewhat striking. Not only does social support help people feel less stressed, but it can also actually improve your health and decrease their mortality risk. Then we have the assertive behavior. So, assertive communication means speaking up for yourself in a thoughtful, tactful way. Being assertive helps you express yourself about things that matter to you. This reduces stress by helping you feel more in control of a situation. And last, we have the psychology and life dealing with conflict. It refers to a situation in which a person is motivated to engage in two or more mutually exclusive or incompatible activities. It occurs when the overt, verbal, symbolic, or emotional responses required to fulfill one motive are incompatible with those required